Sure. Happy to be here.
A lot going on in the city of Lansing.
There is a ton going on in the city of Lansing, which we're proud of, which I'm excited about.
Makes for a busy schedule and a lot of work.
Yes, it does.
And you're running for another term.
I am. So yes, on top of all the incredible growth and things going on, we're setting up a campaign for another 4 years.
And did you grow up in Lansing?
I did not. Nope. I grew up on Long Island. Came to Michigan for college. Went to U of M. Sorry for all your listeners. From 93 to 97, and then came to Lansing right after college.
And what brought you here?
A job. I got a job with Gary Peters.
Right.
So I worked for then backbencher state senator Gary Peters. He hired me. I was working the Clinton Gore campaign in 1996, and I met some of his staff there, and I interviewed. And I went back and I finished college after the campaign, and then got hired to work for Gary Peters as his legislative director, and I was there until he termed out in 2002.
What was the term you used? Backbench?
Backbench. He was just another one of the 16 or 17 Democratic senators, and they were in the minority, and he wasn't this U.S. senator, and but he was great. He's my mentor. He taught me everything. I tell everyone if I'm doing it right, Gary Peters taught me. If I'm doing it wrong, I probably screwed it up.
Right. Well, it's always important to have mentors,
yeah.
And some of your first mentors seem to be the most important. And as we get older, we often lose our mentors and become mentors. But you need them your whole life, right?
Oh yeah, yes. And I've got now a few people. I've got a young man who worked for me when I was in the state house, who's now a state representative. I was very proud when he got elected to the county commission, and now he's a state rep from the Grand Rapids area.
Oh, that's great.
Steve Wooden. So I've got a few people who I guess have called me mentor, and it's weird.
What caused you to want to get into politics?
I enjoyed the process of government. I always, when I was in college, I got involved in student government because I had a friend who got involved, and I saw when people would say you can't do that or you can't do this, and I would say, well, why? Well, that's the law, and a lot of me thought, well, why can't we change the law? And that's just not a normal. It's not kind of that normal reaction. The normal reaction is, all right, I can't, so either I'm going to do it anyway, break the law, or I'm not going to do it. And I thought, well, why don't we change the law? So when I went to work for Gary, working on legislation, I remember campaigning for him in '98, and we ran into someone at a Farmer Jack parking lot who had concerns about convicted felons who were buying body armor. And, we ran a bill on it. We ran a bill prohibiting convicted felons from using body armor. He worked with the chairman, the Republican chairman of the Judiciary Committee, and we got it passed into law. And all of a sudden this is a problem. We just worked with the other side of the aisle to fix that problem. And I've always thought that was the coolest thing about government.
And that seems like a thing that everybody could get behind, right?
Yeah.
Body armor,
it was, yes. We had one person that was very upset because he thought it was God-given right to have body armor and didn't see why. And we actually showed a video of a place where hundreds of bullets were fired at this guy who had committed a crime, and he was wearing body armor head to toe, and the cops couldn't bring him down because he was wearing body armor.
There's the famous incident in L.A. where I think the father and son were robbing somebody and they were wearing body armor.
It was after that, but that was used in the hearing.
Conceptually, we get the idea, right?
Yeah.
And so you work for him.
I did.
And decide this is what you want to do.
Sort of. I worked for him and decided that I wanted to be in elected office. And I tell this story a lot. There was an issue that he was working on, and I, as his advisor, I advised him to vote yes, and he didn't. And he said to me, I very much respect your opinion and appreciate the work you've done on this issue, but I'm the name on the ballot, and I'm going to vote the way I think is best. And he said, someday you'll be the name on the ballot. So when he termed out in 2002, I ran for county commission. There was an open seat in South Lansing, and I decided I was going to run, and I was going to be the name on the ballot and work on issues, and I won. and I was on the county commission for 10 years and really enjoyed my time.
Besides managing a budget, what do county commissioners do?
Oh, tons. Anything with health policy. So the health department, everything.
Like the Ingham County Health Department, that's something that's managed by you.
Yep, it's funded by the county commissioners.
Right. Ingham County Sheriff's Office.
Sheriff's
and
office.
The jail.
Yep, the jail, the prosecutor, animal control. I did a ton. The county commission does a ton with animal control.
Right.
So lots of different services that are countywide that are not something that is done at the city. And I really enjoyed it. It's nobody really knows what a county commissioner does.
Not much legislation has passed at the county level. More policy, right?
Yeah, a little bit. So they can do health. So for a while before the statewide smoking ban, Ingham County had a requirement of separation for smoking versus non in restaurants, and that was again something we could do because you have broad latitude to do health issues. Years ago, when Lansing had a problem with a trailer park on the south side called Life O'Reilly, it was Ingham County Health Department that shut it down because it was the sewage. Yep.
Yeah, so that was a front page issue, right?
So again, health issues are big. Animal issues are big. Public safety issues countywide, not as much in the city, but countywide. I actually led the initiative to allow for the raising of chickens in Ingham County because a constituent brought it to me. A guy named Ken Ross came to me, and who I think you know.
Oh yeah, sure, my neighbor.
Yep,
your neighbor too.
Our neighbor. Yep, he came to me and said we should be allowed to raise chickens in the city of Lansing, and we passed something at Ingham County that said you can raise up to 5 chickens. And at the time, he and his daughters were were doing it as a project.
Are they still doing that?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
I don't hear the roosters.
I don't think so. They're not allowed to have roosters. You're only allowed to have chickens, but I don't think they are. But so yeah, there are a lot of really cool things you could do as a county commissioner, but it's just not something that a lot of people know. So it's not, you're not bombarded by constituents yelling about different things.
What's it like when you go up to your first door? I assume you did that when you ran for county commissioner, and you knock and you say, "I'm Andy Schor and I want to be your next county commissioner."
It was weird. I was 26 years old, and I didn't really know what I was doing. But when you're a county commissioner and you're running, people are like, well, what does a county commissioner do?
Right.
So I spent a lot of time explaining what a county commissioner does. It was very cool because, again, I was 26 and I knocked probably 10,000 doors. And for a lot of people, they were really excited to have somebody young getting into politics. We need more. I heard that a lot. We need more youth in politics. This is great. I wasn't running against anybody. It was an open seat. So it was just introducing myself to the community. And a lot of people, again, they didn't know what county commissioner does. Sometimes some of them thought I was running for drain commissioner, and I'd say, no, it's just county commissioner, and this is what I do.
Right.
I did a lit piece. I did two or three lit pieces, and one of them was, what is a county commissioner? And a lot of people like that because, again, it explained what the county commissioners do.
I think in 90, so you ran in 98 or 96?
I ran in 2002.
Okay. And so there were probably, like there is almost every major election, a bunch of new people who get the calling, they want to get into politics. Do you remember, at least statewide, anybody that you have had a long-term relationship with that ran about that time? I don't remember when Gretchen first ran as state rep, but I think it was
around there.
Around that time.
Verge was running for Senate, state Senate. Bernero was a state rep, and he was running for state Senate that year. So I remember seeing him on the campaign trail. Right. I think Gretchen might have been running. I don't remember.
Around that time.
Yeah, Granholm was on the ballot for governor
in 2002.
2002. So I ran a primary race. I had a primary opponent, but I had no general election that year. My first election, I had no general election, just primary.
But the primary was an election.
It was,
right?
yeah.
And that was probably against another Democrat, I assume, and, contested race, and you had to go through and run a budget and figure it out and do a strategy and maybe some negative campaigning. I don't know. But at that level, probably not much.
No, we didn't. We did 3 lit pieces and a whole lot of doors. I think I raised $12,000, family and friends. Had some endorsements. The sheriff, Gene Rigglesworth, had endorsed me.
That's big.
Gene was great. I'm a big fan. Sandy Allen, who was council member at the time, she endorsed me.
Important.
Yep. So it was a good race, but I didn't really focus on my opponent. We actually knew each other. We were both staff together. When I was working for Gary Peters, he was working as a staffer also. We knew each other. We actually lived down the street from each other. So when we go door knocking, we'd see each other leaving.
That's great.
So it was a great experience.
And so how long are you a county commissioner?
10 years.
10 years, and then you run for
State House.
State House, and whose seat did you run?
Joan Bowers.
Okay.
So yeah, Joan. When Joan termed out, I decided I'd been county commissioner for 10 years, seen some of the same issues come back 2 or 3 times, very circular. The issues come back and come back, and I decided that I was going to take my shot at the State House, or be done.
And that was a Lansing seat.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
In the same place where you live now, same district?
Yeah. No. Well, I lived in a different place. I lived in Sycamore Park. We lived in Sycamore Park when I got elected, right across the street from Mount Hope Elementary School.
Right.
We moved shortly after, but we lived there.
And so it was a different district?
It was mostly the same. The district changed in redistricting in 2012. The district changed.
Okay.
So the district was basically, Joan Bauer's seat was basically everything from Jolly Road north, and then Bar Byram was Jolly south.
Right. Southingham County.
Yeah, but then that changed when Sarah Anthony got elected after I left the House.
Okay.
It changed in 2012. But for the most part, yeah, the same seat, Joan Bauer's seat, which is basically Jolly North.
And now that's a full-time job, which the county commissioner, I don't think is, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So what job were you doing when you were county commissioner?
I was working for an organization. Well, in the beginning, I had 3 different jobs in that 10 years. I worked for a state rep named Paul Condino out of Southfield for 2 years. I worked for Governor Granholm's insurance commissioner, who was Ken Ross.
Oh, right.
I worked for him at the time for a year as his public information officer. And then I worked for an organization called the Michigan Municipal League for 6 years. And I was an economic development advocate on behalf of cities throughout the state. So I did economic development policy.
Important position, especially during that time period, right?
Yep, it was great. I learned a lot, and it was a lobbying position, but on behalf of cities. And I got to talk about the importance of local control and things important in cities, which helped me out down the road.
And you win that race.
I did.
And you're state rep for
5 years.
5 years, and then when do you run?
I ran after I won my 3rd reelection to the State House. It was weird. I spent a lot of time knocking doors, telling people I'm running for my 3rd term, and I got a lot of people who said, "That's great, we're going to vote for you, but next year we want you to run for mayor." So that was kind of when I started thinking about running for mayor, and I gave it a lot of thought and talked with my wife, and decided that we were gonna run and give the voters a choice. I didn't know what the sitting mayor would do or not, but I decided. I had a lot of people asking, and I had did 2 more years in the legislature, and I would put my name out there and see if folks wanted my leadership or not. I had nothing against the sitting mayor, but I thought I would put my name out there and see if they were interested.
And I thought, maybe I'm wrong, but for some reason I remember, did you announce on the little square in front of City Hall? Or
No. No, we announced at Strange Matter.
Oh, okay.
On Strange Matter, which was only at the time on the east side. It was in that small little shop, Strange Matter Coffee. We announced there, and then that night the legislature went through the night.
Okay.
So I was exhausted.
Yeah. And so, now you're running a citywide campaign, and you're dealing with city issues, and, the field sort of pares down, and you have I don't remember whether you had a primary, but you definitely had a general there.
Yeah.
And who was your general election against?
Well, we had
it's nonpartisan?
It's nonpartisan, right. So Mayor Bonero decided not to run.
Right.
And there were 7 or 8 candidates. But the main person was a councilwoman, a woman named Judy Brown Clark.
Oh, right.
Who was a city councilwoman. Nice woman. We got along.
Long history of Lansing, including
Yep.
Michigan State University,
Yep.
and
Silver medalist.
right, married to Judge
Clark.
Clark,
Yep.
right?
So she and I, we were the two candidates. Really, they were the two, I'd say, serious candidates.
Mm-hmm.
So after the primary, we ran against each other. I did very well. I think I got 68% in the primary with 8 candidates, and then it narrowed down to 2, and then I was able to get 73% in
That's
November.
strong. That's strong.
I was thrilled.
That's an endorsement for sure.
Yeah.
A mandate, probably most people would say.
Yeah, I was
And
thrilled.
so that's 2012.
Oh, that's 2020. 17. 2017.
2017.
Yeah, 2017.
Okay.
Yeah,
And then, and so you've been a mayor for 8 years.
this is my 8th year. It went fast. It went fast and slow.
Could you have anticipated some of the things that you have had to deal with?
No. I don't know that anybody could have anticipated. Yeah, there's going to be stress and problems and funding and budgets and there's always going to be some issue, but nobody can see a pandemic
And
coming.
one of the things about the state, and I think the city budget, is it has to balance, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So it's unlike the federal budget. You can't just keep spending money. You have to balance it, right?
That's right. Yes.
And in order to borrow money, tell me, there's special rules about borrowing bonds and whatnot.
Yeah.
You have to, is that an approval by the people, or is it more I mean, you can't really borrow money to cover a deficit, right?
Correct. There are several different kinds of bonds. There are revenue bonds. There are some bonds that we can issue with council approval, and then there are some bonds which you have to go to the voters. So, for example, when we do brownfield projects and things like that, if there's a bonding that we're doing for a city service, we just need council approval. But when we decided to build the public safety complex, that's $175 million. That, in essence, was a borrowing that we took out that is up against future taxes that are coming in. So we said we're going to borrow $175 million, and future taxes are going to pay for that. And the citizens approved that. So it depends on the kind of bond. We have an allowance. We are allowed to a bond up to, it's something like $120, $130 million, and we're not at our bond cap right now. But we bonded for fixes for the stadium. We bonded for things that we knew we'd have to pay off, and then every year we build what's called bond debt into our budget.
Complicated. Mm-hmm. And you have great people to help you with that.
We have the best. We have great finance folks.
It's not necessarily, you have to pay attention to the big picture, and you hope your experts make sure the I's are dotted and T's are crossed.
That's right. It's my decision that we wanted to bond for. We're going to bond for the ovation, but we're paying it off with what are called public access fees that we get paid from Comcast and AT&T. So I say, let's go bond, and we'll pay it off with the fees that we know are coming in, and then they make it all work. They go out to the bond market, they float the bonds, they figure out the interest, and they figure out all of that. They make it work. I just say, let's go do this.
So, the city of Lansing is a interesting dynamic, right? And it's a capital city, and it has a certain amount of industry and insurance, and obviously Michigan State University.
Yeah.
And we've seen a lot of change in downtown, right?
Yeah.
Especially, mainly in part because of the pandemic, right?
I think in terms of less state workers, and we saw that have an impact. But honestly, it's changed significantly since then, which is great, and it's going to change over the next 2 years.
In what way?
We're seeing a lot of people now coming downtown as a destination. Instead of just state workers that were getting a sandwich at lunchtime, we're seeing a lot of people who have realized that Lansing's downtown is a cool place to be, and try and go downtown at night. It used to be a ghost town. Now you can't get into Envy, you can't get into Bodie's, you need reservations, and a lot of the places are open and doing really well. at night. Not as many people during the day when the state's not in. So, Mondays and Fridays, if the legislature's not there, if state employees are home on Mondays or Fridays, less people during the day, but more people that we're seeing at night, which is different. We're going to change that and try and get people there all the time by having housing. So when you live in the area, you create a density, and we've got significant housing that's been created and more that's coming in.
And I think I had lunch with Paul Gentilozzi a week or so ago, and he's bringing how many units to the downtown?
Well, he's bringing 570 total, and that is between 3 projects in what we call the Central Business District, another project just west of the Capitol at Walnut and Ottawa, and then a project in Old Town.
Right.
So significant. I mean, it's a 20. He's going to be building a 27-story building, tower, right on the Grand River downtown that the city worked with him on, and we got money from the state. We're getting transformational brownfield money, and that's right downtown. So 27 stories of housing. If it's 500 or 450 or 500 units just in that one building, that's 1,000 people. And then you add in the amenity floors and the bridge that they're going to build over to Impression 5, and you're going to see significant work there. And then right down the street and across the street, you're going to have the Ovation, which is a concert hall with 2,000 people coming in, 5 times a night.
Right.
We have Greywall Hall, which is doing well, which is 1,000 people. You're going to have a new City Hall right down the street also where Boar's Head used to be.
That seems like something that has been in a long time coming. And, I think even since Hollister and maybe before that, there was the talk about getting a new City Hall, and it's finally put together.
Yep, we were able to, I think 2 of Hollister's priorities we were able to put to bed. The new City Hall, which was going to be great, and then the Performing Arts Center, both of which Hollister really pushed for. Benavides pushed for, Bernero pushed for. We were able to get those done, and I'm excited about both of those. And there'll be some affordable housing in the area. So you're looking at housing, a new tower, so an affordable housing complex with the Lansing Housing Commission, a new tower, the Ovation, the City Hall. You're going to see significant cranes in the air starting in 3 weeks.
How important is a strong sort of central business district or downtown Lansing to the strength of Lansing overall?
Incredibly important. I mean, people come to Lansing and they end out in the downtown, whether they're coming to go to the Capitol, they're coming to go to a ball game or whatever. They end out in the downtown, they walk around. People in the neighborhoods, they love their corridors. They want to go to Michigan Avenue. They want to go to South MLK. They want to do things in the corridors. But if you want to hang out and go out for a night, there's a good chance you're coming to the downtown or you're coming to the Stadium District and walking around. It's very important. It's our downtown. It's Michigan's downtown.
And when do you think you can say, okay, we're on, not that we're on the right path because you're there now, but like we've made it through this hurdle?
I think as soon as everything starts opening up, as soon as the tower opens and people are living there, the Ovation is open and acts are playing, the housing is open. We're on a glide path and the construction is happening. First it was development and putting together the financing, then it's construction, and then it's opening. And I tell people a lot, the second best day that I can have is a ribbon cutting. The best day I can have the second best day I can have is a groundbreaking. The best day I can have is a ribbon cutting. Right. So we're a year and a half or so until the first piece of that will open. We're probably 2.5 years until all the pieces are done, and then we'll add a new hotel a year later. So in the next few years, you're going to see very significant changes in the southern downtown. But we're also doing significant work in Rio Town. We're doing significant work on Saginaw. Michigan Avenue is going to be redone. You see Walter French repurposed and is opening up. So there's work going on.
Slightly out of the downtown district, but not too far.
Not too far. And on the bus line. So you're seeing work all throughout the city, and it's fantastic.
And what people may or may not know is downtown does have a significant educational institutions between Davenport and Cooley and and Lansing Community College, of course.
Yeah.
How big of an impact do they have on your downtown strength?
Significant, especially LCC. Cooley, we've seen they've reduced, but they're still there, which is nice.
Right.
But LCC has a significant presence. Davenport's great. They've got a great facility. They got commuters that come in. So we're thrilled with all three. But LCC has tremendous presence. They have their campus, their main campus. They got an area where people can go to LCC and they can go downtown. They can go to the park, to Durant Park across the street. So it's great having the density of the young people, or really anybody, because especially at LCC, you know this better than I do, Andrew,
right,
that there's a lot of adult learners at LCC.
Yeah, it's a commuter school, but it's sort of on an island, but very walkable from LCC down to any of the restaurants down there. And LCC's done a great job of placemaking with their buildings. I mean, they're a good example for what Lansing could be. So economic development is a major piece of your daily work.
Yeah.
So is public safety.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Tell me about how that's going, because that's since 2017. You always have major fears, right? Mm-hmm. To the extent that what we saw on campus at Michigan State, and your public safety is incredibly important, and you have to balance that against officers' overreach.
Yeah, it's we saw crime spike. We certainly saw after George Floyd, an in-depth conversation about policing. I was never a supporter of defunding the police or cutting the police, but I've always been a supporter that the police have to act right. And our police took the oath that if they saw a fellow officer do something wrong, they would, they're responsible to report their fellow officers. But our public safety has been going well. We saw a spike during the pandemic. Crime went up, homicides went up, everything went up here and everywhere else. I'm on the advisory board for the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and everybody saw it. We saw it everywhere. People were shut in and couldn't really be social, and we saw domestic violence go up. We saw a lot of crime go up. And now it's all coming down. This year, we've seen homicides go down. We've seen robberies go down. We've seen assaults go down. We've seen shootings go down. So everything's going in the right direction. That doesn't minimize the fact that any one homicide is an absolute awful thing and a tragedy,
right,
and any shooting is terrible. But on the aggregate, it's going down. We've got a plan that we're working with, first looking at prevention, making sure that young people have activities. We have 111 parks. We have all kinds of great things to do in the city, from pickleball to classes to daycares and everything else that'll keep young people occupied.
The river walk, the kayaking and stuff.
I-5,
right.
Yep, the ball games. So first we want to make sure there's things to do, prevention. We have a great intervention program with Advanced Peace where they go in and they try and identify kids that are at risk and kind of help them out and pull them out of a bad situation. If something does happen, they prevent retaliation. And we started that in Southwest Lansing, and it worked. We saw numbers go way down because they were able to prevent situations from happening. Everybody remembers when a situation happens. Nobody remembers when it doesn't happen.
Right.
So we saw that. And then enforcement, making sure that if there's someone who does something violent, we're getting them off the streets. And our police officers closed every case but one last year, and the only one they didn't close was a holdover, and they'll probably close it this year.
The Common Ground, the concert series you have in the summertime, and obviously those are big events. A lot of people can come to those, and you've never really had any kind of major incident. Everybody's safety, and that's an example of nobody compliments you for events that don't happen. Right?
We're dealing with a lot of that. We're dealing with putting concerts and things at the stadium and trying to utilize the stadium as best we can. We're again having those things to do, especially in the summer. It's been good. And it was hard during the pandemic because you couldn't have those things. So
Right.
people,
There was some gatherings outside your house,
there was some there were some gatherings outside my house.
and you were quite the hostess.
I did all right. We did all right. We never used the
at
bathrooms.
your own risk, I guess, because
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to. I mean, I think we should talk about it a little bit because, you were, I guess, maybe the bravest or the dumbest man in the city, but I recall my daughter, who was living with me at the time, wanted to go see what was going on and took my golf cart over across the bridge. And
Yeah.
next thing you know, I see her coming racing back. And, I could tell her heart was racing a little bit. And she said, "Dad, there's men over there with long guns."
Yeah.
And, that's the state of America. For some reason, they thought camping out at your front door with guns, which you can do, was, somehow their right to protest. And it just was an interesting juxtaposition of what was going on in America. And, I felt horrible for you and your family, and yet you handled it with a lot of grace and courtesy, I guess.
I appreciate that. It was a very difficult time for me, for my family. There was a lot of passion in the community. Although, again, I never believed that defunding the police was the way to go. But there were certainly people who did. And yes, there were people who came to my house and stood outside with long guns. They didn't come on our property. To their credit, they didn't come on our property. We did have someone spray paint the pavement in front of our house, the city pavement.
They used the little valley there
Yeah.
on the golf course for bathroom once in a while.
Did they? That's good to know. That I didn't know. The first time they came, it was probably 200 people at our house, and it was very nice. I went out and talked to them. I let them all use my bathroom before they walked back to the Capitol. But then they kept coming back, and I was not going to engage with them. That was not the time and place to engage. If people want to meet with me, they come, they try and make a meeting, they contact my office. You want to protest City Hall, then you protest, and we had plenty of those. But after the first time, I didn't engage with folks at my house. I just don't think that's appropriate. I don't care who you are, Democrat or Republican. I don't think going to someone's house, the provost at the University of Michigan yesterday, his house was vandalized. I don't think that's proper, and we've seen it.
That's against the law. I mean, they have the right to show up at your street, and you have the right not to, engage with them. And
The biggest problems I had were more, again, when people came with guns, I was unhappy about that. Some of them knocked on our neighbors' doors to tell them how awful Andy Schor is, and then it's bothering the neighbors. We had people that showed up in the middle of the night. They would pull up and they would hit the horn or they would blast music. And, I had two kids. I had a high schooler. I had two high schoolers. And it took its toll on them to a point where they would stay at other people's houses some nights. It was a very tough time. But
high school kids do that no matter what.
Yeah, they do. They do.
But I can completely understand their position. Why would they want to be around?
That's
and it was a tough situation, but one that is like at least in any major city or any city that spark is ready to be lit at any moment, right? Because if something happens and officers make a split-second decision, it's going to get national attention or at least statewide attention, right?
Yeah, that's right. We've had some incidents, nothing like George Floyd, nothing like even what they saw in Grand Rapids.
Right.
So we haven't had anything like that. We've had a few incidents, and we've had to deal with them. We've had police officers fired. We've had police officers fired and put back on the force by arbitrators. But for the most part, I'd say 99% of our police officers do a great job.
Yeah, and unfortunately, in today's day and age, as I understand it, it's becoming harder and harder to find people that want to become police officers.
That's right. Yes, it is.
And it's not just a DEI issue. No. It's across the board. The pay isn't what it maybe should be, and not only do you have to worry about getting killed, but you have to worry about being sued or imprisoned for making what would be
Yeah.
split-second decisions.
100% true. Yeah, we have seen that. It's getting better, and we have been very supportive of our police officers. We gave them a very good contract. We recognize some of the mental health challenges they go through. Again, we're building them a new facility. It doesn't excuse anyone who does something wrong, but it is very difficult to get police officers now. Folks are just not excited to go into the profession, and we need them. You're seeing a need for police officers everywhere. So we hope to be fully. We're authorized for 211 officers in Lansing, and I think we have about 200 and maybe we had about 196. We expect to be fully staffed up.
10%.
Yeah,
That's not terrible.
it's not. I mean, I still want to be fully staffed up, and we expect to be there by June because we have young people in the academy that have committed to coming to the force. So we expect to be fully staffed up by June, and we'll front load in case there are retirements. I'd like to be fully staffed, including our social workers. We have a social work division, which we were the first city in the state to hire social workers in our police force. So, and it's not just about defending crime; it's about community service. Our police officers do these hot dog gatherings where they bring food carts to hot dogs to neighborhoods. We had police officers one year that were driving around playing the Ice Cream Man song, and kids would come running out and they'd see a cop and they'd stop, and then the police officer would roll down the window and give out ice cream.
Well, I mean, for the most part, a lot of people in the city may not have any contact with city council people or the mayor or the city hall. They get their tax bill or file their tax return, but obviously even a fireman is maybe a rare occasion or for a person, but police officers, you see all over all the time, and that they're often a representative of the city.
Yeah, when you want it to be positive. Most of the time when you run into a police officer or a firefighter, it's on your worst day. Something happened. So we have a community service division so that it can be a positive. We have cops that play basketball with kids. We do police athletic league. We want it to be a positive. We want people to see it as someone that they trust. So, and that trust was hard to build during the pandemic.
And you've gone through a couple of police chiefs, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So is it, I always say his name wrong, Sosby?
No, Sosby.
Sosby.
He retired about a year and a half ago.
Right.
So that with police chiefs, the ironic part is you always want the best and most qualified, right? So you get the person who's been there 23 years and has been every division, has been in patrol and in IA and every division, and then you move them up in their 23rd year, and then at year 25 they're retirement eligible. So I've seen 3 chiefs leave because they retired. Our chief now is a gentleman named Rob Backus,
right?
And we're trying to keep him. He's been doing a fantastic job, and we'd like to see him stay.
Long history in LPD, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't tell you any specific cases, but I've seen him on police reports and cases I've been involved in, and I think he was at the detective bureau for a while.
He was
at one time, and
he was head of detectives at one time.
Right, major crimes and all that stuff. So
he was a captain. He was involved in our violent crime initiative. That's just the issue is you get them. You always want the person with the most experience, and then they become retirement eligible, and after a while it wears on you. It wears on your family. When it's 24 hours. I mean, I get texts from my police chief all hours of the day, and it can wear on them, but Rob does a great job. Ellery Sosby did a great job before him.
Yeah, he sure did.
Daryl Green did a great job before him.
Yeah, he sure did.
And before him, Mike Yankowski.
Oh, right.
And those are the 4 that I've had.
Yeah.
And
I think Mike is at MSU now.
MSU, yep.
Yeah, right.
He's MSU's chief of police, chief of security.
Maybe.
Something
and
like that.
So is Ellery's at Michigan State, too.
Yep. And Daryl Green was at Michigan State. They all retired, went to MSU, but Daryl is now in Alabama. He went down to University of Alabama, Birmingham. But Yankowski and Sosby are both.
Michigan State University has a strong reputation for a well-funded police department.
Yep. Yes.
Yep. And it's one of the reasons why people leave there. Not only do they pay well, but they really provide a lot of extra materials and equipment to their police force.
Well, and it's a good job post retirement, right? If you're a police officer and you came out of the academy at 18, 19 years old, after 25 years, you're 45 to 50 years old. You're not ready to be done.
Right.
So we lose folks to the county. A gentleman named Darren Southworth, was a great. He was at LPD and now he's at the county. We've lost folks to MSU, MSP. But again, it's when you're a police officer or you're in policing and you've got that kind of experience, especially at a senior level, you retire and you're still ready to work. There's lots of other opportunities, especially in a senior level.
Let's talk about something that's not under your umbrella.
All right.
Okay. Lansing Public Schools.
Yeah.
Incredibly important to the welfare of the city of Lansing.
Yeah.
How do you think, without obviously, it's not your job, but how do you think we're doing with Lansing Public Schools?
I think we're doing great. And I don't say that as I am the mayor and I work with them a lot. I have 2 children that graduated from Lansing Public Schools. Both my kids graduated from Everett High School. My son is working at a job here in Lansing, and I'm proud of him. My daughter is at the University of Michigan. I think that
she couldn't get into Michigan State.
She got into Michigan. She got in. She didn't get into. She wanted to go to one of the colleges that she didn't get into, and I'll think of the name. But she got into MSU. She got into U of M. MSU was too close. She didn't want to be that close to mom and dad.
Right.
She got into U of M. She got into Indiana. She got into Minnesota and Iowa. She wanted to go to a Big Ten school. Nothing is perfect, and there's issues no matter where you go. But our school district is seeing record graduation numbers, which is great. The scores are coming up. They're not where they need to be at the end of the day, but we're seeing that all over the country. I have seen there's more diversity in the Lansing schools than anywhere else. They speak 65 different languages in the school district. My kids got, I think, a good education. My daughter is taking Chinese at U of M, and she had taken it at Post Oak when she was at Post Oak. She stopped when she was at Everett, but she's going back to Chinese. We got friends whose kids that graduated with an international baccalaureate degree from Eastern, which you can't get really anywhere else in the area. There are a lot of unique advantages at Lansing schools, but there are still issues for the superintendent and the school board to work through. But with a lot of their programs, whether it's Spanish immersion or Chinese immersion, whether it's no matter what it is, I think they're doing a good job, and I think they get a bad rap. And I've talked to a lot of people who don't like the school district, and they say, well, 20 years ago this happened. There's a lot different now than there was 20 years ago.
I'm probably more of a critic than a...
It's okay.
And it's not that they're doing anything wrong, but, there's a premise in the practice of law that, not only you want to do things that are proper, but you want to give the appearance of propriety. And when, and this is no criticism of you, and when we go to Sexton High School and it looks like they haven't really done any upgrades since I was there. And I think when I was at LCC, we give away scholarships, so somebody will go to Sexton and hand out scholarships, and I go to the auditorium, and I'm not sure any of the seating or, the chair, have ever been changed.
But you pick the one of the 4 that have not.
No,
been approved.
I know, but there's still students that go there, and it's like,
but I think that's
to
next.
me, it's the single most important thing we can do to the long-term, strength of the city. The easy thing, maybe not the easy thing because it isn't easy, but the obvious thing is to work on development and the prosperity and the economic strength of the downtown, right? That's important. Sure. Everybody agrees, and you can get support from banks and business people and, all the people But the hard thing, and quite frankly, I think it's hard because nobody's really established an algorithm to figure out how to educate, at-risk students at a mass level and do it great. But I think one of the things we have to do is provide them with an environment that looks like we care, and we've done that at Pattongill. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure where Everett is. I hope it's better, but when you go to East Lansing and you go to DeWitt and you go to Grand Ledge and you go to Holt, you go to all these schools, and then we go to Lansing, Sexton, which used to be the strength of.
I would encourage you to visit because they've done bonds, right? So you're right. Businesses don't come in and do it. The citizens do it.
Right.
So we bonded. New Eastern is beautiful. It's the old Pattongill, one of the newest schools. New Eastern is beautiful. Everett has just gone under a huge reconstruction. I did my State of the City there a few years ago. New auditorium, new gym. It's really very, very nice. Sexton's next. And a lot of the schools, Mount Hope. My son went to Mount Hope. My daughter was going to Post Oak. Mount Hope is an older school. They just knocked it down and they're building a new one. It was sad to see the old one go.
I see.
Building a brand new one.
I drive by there a decent amount.
Yeah. So they're doing it school by school. They are fixing the buildings. Yes. East Lansing and Holt, and they've got newer schools because their districts are growing. They're wealthier communities, and they're able to put more money into their schools. But ours, our citizens make an average of $48,000 a year, and yet they have passed the school bonds that are allowing us to build a new Mount Hope, a new Luton is going to be coming. We're seeing a lot of the schools get massive upgrades, and again, it's to the credit of the superintendent and the school board with the vision and the citizens, because no one's helping. We're doing it on our own,
right?
And you and I are paying those taxes, and I think it's important. You're right. Sexton is next. It was in relatively better shape than Old Eastern and Everett, but that's coming next. What I've heard is you got to go to Everett first because the South Side doesn't get enough love for schools, and now you've got a new Everett. But I encourage you to go and visit. And again, my kids were there when this was happening, and the band room is beautiful. It's still an older school because it's much older than East Lansing School, and Holt School was built 20 years ago. Sexton was built 70 years ago.
I think Okemos was built
15 years ago.
In 1990, 1991, 92 area.
Okay, all right. I thought it was,
maybe
early
a little
2000s.
later.
Yeah.
Maybe a little later, but, it was at the time, I think it was $36 million, which is like a drop in the bucket today. But these were big, vibrant schools. Yeah. They're, half of what they were or a third of what they were. And we struggle to get, what I'll say, academic excellence across the board, I think. And I think that's critical for the strength of Lansing. Now, that's not under your bailiwick, obviously. It's a different board, but, the success of Lansing is critically tied to the schools.
I think a lot of that comes with belief in the schools. Too many people choice their kids out of the schools because they don't believe their kids can succeed. And I fundamentally disagree with that. And I now have proof because my daughter is going to the University of Michigan. She's succeeding. My son is working in a trade. He is succeeding. Now, my wife and I are very involved parents. Not everybody has very involved parents. And I get that. It just depends on the individual family. But I think I've heard from enough people who don't have the experience of 20 years ago who say, I'm going to choice my kid. I love Lansing, but I'm going to choice my kid out. And I say, why? And they say, well, look at the test scores, or look at, they say, look at different things.
Lansing Catholic is probably as strong as it's ever been, really, in my adult lifehood. And that's ebbed and flowed, but it seems like it's on the uptick. And a lot of people send their kids to Lansing Catholic, and I can't, for the life of me, understand that they're sending their kids there and paying that money. That would go a long ways.
Some choose a religious education. Again, some just don't want their kids in Lansing or East Lansing or Holt. And I've got friends who do Lansing Catholic, who do a variety of different private schools. It's a choice that I didn't make, but it's a choice that some people make. Again, I think a lot of it is about faith in the district. And if you want to have a religious education, you're not going to be in any public school. But people have to have faith, and I think that comes with building the reputation, and that's in progress.
One thing that's, I think, important is the sort of demand to want to live in Lansing. Mm-hmm. And there are pockets of areas where there is a demand to be. And I mean, in one of the areas is where we live. I mean, it's very, and I think that's a good sign.
Yeah.
That as you get those demands, the people won't stand. The people will care about the way their public schools are run. Hopefully,
But you're seeing that all over. I mean, whether it's where we live, whether it's Colonial Village, whether it's Sycamore Park or Groesbeck or the West Side, the East Side. There are lots of really good neighborhoods. And you're right. Sometimes people are not going to have the capacity to choice their kids out. Are you able to drive your kids to East Lansing? Are you able to carpool to pick them up at 3:30? My wife and I both work, and we have since we've had our kids. And we were not going to choice them out. But again, choicing them out would have meant one of us has to leave early or has to get a friend to pick our kids up from a different school district. We didn't want to. Had we wanted to, the capacity wasn't there. So then you get into a situation where people, some people who have the capacity are able to choice them out and others aren't. The answer is we have to have a district where our kids can get the academic education and succeed. And they get better options in Lansing than they can get in a lot of other places, but some people don't think they can succeed there. So some of that is perception. And some of it's reality. Again, test scores are lower, and that's something that our folks are definitely working on. We're seeing that in a lot of communities, but that doesn't excuse the fact that,
right.
that its scores are lower. But I remember when my son was there, he was he didn't want to write. He was terrible at writing, got bad grades. He was fantastic at math, and in math they had to pull him out.
Sounds like me.
It sounds a little like me. But in math, he was a higher learner, so he and 3 or 4 of his friends had to be pulled out to do math together so they could go ahead.
Right.
Writing, he wouldn't write a thing. So sometimes you got to take the kid at where they're at, and you got to help them more, and you got to make sure that they're challenged when they're doing everything they can. And again, I think it's the same at every district, but Lansing is hyper focused on because in the past people have looked at it and said, I don't trust that district, or I can't get my kid's education there. I think they can. They just have to know that and be comfortable with it. And not everybody is, and that's okay.
Small area of topic. I consider where we live, the Colonial Village district, but maybe it's not quite that. I mean, I grew up, going to Colonial Village,
yeah.
And it sure would be nice if we could get something in the Colonial Village strip there to, little grocery store, Monticello's like place. But let's talk about the healthcare in Lansing, what's happened to Sparrow Hospital. We have McLaren. Mm-hmm. How do you think, and what involvement or how important is that for the city of Lansing and its strength that we've got U of M?
Tremendous. It's tremendously important. It's 3 big health systems right now. It's U of M, Sparrow, it's McLaren, and ironically, it's MSU. MSU Healthcare is doing mobile clinics and things like that here, and they're looking to do more. And I give MSU Healthcare full credit for wanting to be in Lansing. U of M has taken over that hospital. They're repurposing the pharmacy. They're going to be bringing 130 behavioral health beds. It's incredible. McLaren spent $400 million on a new hospital, and they're looking at bringing more primary care into kind of the heart of our city. They have been a tremendous partner. When you look at that, there's just tons of healthcare jobs. Go into the East Side and talk to folks that are nurses, that are doctors, that are janitors.
Most of them graduated from LCC, by the way.
Yeah, a lot of them. A lot of the nurses, especially.
High percentage.
Yes, the nurses. I mean, this. LCC is an incredible nursing program. Right. And we get people that match. Here we have a level 1 trauma center at U of M Health. We have a NICU that is second to none at U of M Health. And again, McLaren has a brand new facility with private rooms that they can offer that a lot of hospitals can't. The healthcare industry is huge here. It is huge, and that's great. We do medical supply, so we've got several medical supply companies here as kind of the incidentals. Mm-hmm. It's just healthcare is, when you talk about the industries of Lansing, you certainly talk about automotive, you certainly talk about state government, insurance. People don't realize. I think we have
a little biologics, a little with Neogen and several others.
Advanced manufacturing,
right.
IT with DuPont and others, but healthcare Healthcare. I think our biggest employer is the state, and our second biggest employer is Sparrow.
So that's big.
Yeah, it's huge. Again, when you look at us, you think cars, you think advanced manufacturing, healthcare, insurance. We have the second biggest insurance industry in the Lansing region, second biggest to Delaware. And in Delaware, you can get massive tax breaks to be an insurance company.
Oh, that's great.
But we have the second biggest here.
So that's an important part.
Mm-hmm. Yep, insurance.
So you're campaigning right now.
I am.
The field isn't set.
Not yet.
You should be a strong favorite.
Hope so.
4 more years after the election will be this fall, right?
Yeah.
And then where do you see yourself?
Being mayor.
Tell me how old you are.
I am 40. I'm going to be 50 on Thursday.
Oh, happy birthday. Is
Thank
that
you.
Pisces or something else?
I'm the last day of Pisces.
Oh, there you go.
That's impressive. I am on the cusp. I am the last day of Pisces.
I'm a March 2nd, so that's
So you know.
the reason.
So happy birthday.
Thank you. So, yeah, you'll be 4 years. You'll be 54-ish around, and have been mayor for, what would that be? 12 years.
Yeah.
And
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I am focused on.
there's a governor's race.
I don't want to be governor.
Gary Peters is stepping down. Is that?
Yeah, that's next year. It's again a race like that. A race like that is taking 2 years, a year and a half of your life. I know this because I looked at running for Congress for a month,
Right.
and then decided not to do it.
Well, you would have ran for Barrett's
seat, yeah. It was, for me at the time, it was 17 months of going all around the country and raising money and doing fundraisers left and right and spending all your time on the phones, and then going through here. At the time, it was 5 counties. If it was a Senate race, it's 83 counties. And your life is not your own. It's all about raising money and getting the snot beat out of you. And it's just, for me, it was not enough time for me to be able to spend with my family and my friends, and as mayor and taking care of my city. So I said I'm not going to do it, and I'm looking forward to getting through the campaign this year. I don't love campaigning; it's part of the job, right? You have to talk to the people.
There's certain parts that you probably love.
I enjoy talking to the people. I enjoy going to their doors and talking to them where they're at.
Doing podcasts.
I love doing podcasts. But spending time raising money and even doing town halls.
It's hard to ask for money.
It is.
It is, because
it's always hard to ask for money. People work hard to get their money, and you're asking them to put their money into you. It's hard to ask them for their votes sometimes. Knocking on someone's door. I've knocked on tens of thousands of doors. And I've seen everybody. I had a woman say, I can't come to the door right now. My daughter's in the bath. Can you come in because I want to talk to you? And I stood outside the bathroom door and spent 10 minutes talking to her about issues while she bathed her daughter. I've had naked people answer the door. I've been bit by dogs 3 times. It's an interesting experience.
Not one of mine, though, right?
Not one of yours. Not one of yours. Not yet. So it's an interesting, but 4 years ago, I knocked doors, and I would knock someone's door, and they'd come to the door, and they'd say, "You're the mayor," and I'd say, "I am, and I'm here at your door. I want to hear from you." There are too many people who don't come to a town hall meeting, or you said this before, right? Who don't they have their own lives to live, right? They have to get their kid to soccer or band. They have to make dinner. There are too many people. So being able to get out and talk to folks where in their space, that part I do enjoy. But it's also time consuming. Again, I'm not seeing my wife if I'm knocking doors from 5 to 8:30. If I don't have events after a full days of work, I'm not seeing my family.
Right.
So that can be hard. But no, I don't know what I want to do next. If it's an elected office, I don't know. It could just be not an elected office. I tell my wife all the time, you love this. I say I want to be a stay-at-home dad as long as there's no kids at home.
Well, the next 4 years are always critical for Lansing. Always have been. I remember a time when my dad said, you could buy, or there was some report put out by Martin. He said, that Lansing is some high degree of percentage of office space was filled in downtown Lansing. This had to have been in the 90s. And I said, Dad, you could walk out to that circle on Washington and Michigan and do a 360-degree turn, and any one of those buildings you pointed at, you could probably buy, and that was sort of around the time we were doing the baseball stadium.
Right.
And, it's critical, and point of view or perception is one thing, but having vision is completely different. And where you see Lansing go and where you can take us is extremely important, and it's unlike, your point of view. And I think you work hard to get us there, and we're all grateful for the work you do. And
Thank you.
hopefully, regardless of what you decide to do, you can do a lot of ribbon cutting.
That's the plan. I want to get a lot of things done in the next 4 years, and I want to start new things that I don't know that I would run for a fourth term. I think 12 years is about right, unless something wildly changes. So I want to get the things done that we've been talking about, that we've been working on. There are a lot of new things that I'd like to see started, knowing that someone else might finish them. But I'm excited for the next 4 years because we are in a very good place right now. We're growing. We are on that tipping point, and I'm excited to see what's kind of come. So I'm really looking forward to the next 4 years.
I know you got someplace to go. I appreciate you coming on, and I look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.